So hello and welcome to the Computer Lab, and in this video I'm going to show you how to update your Unify controller that you have running on your Raspberry Pi. Okay, so as you can see, I'm currently logged into the GUI, into the user interface. So I'm logged in via my IP address. I'm using Google Chrome, and I've got the IP address of my Raspberry Pi showing there. And you can see that my controller is screaming at me to update to my new version. And I think I'm running on 6.0.41, and this is showing it's 6.0.43 is now available. So I need to update the software. And if you don't know your IP address of your Raspberry Pi, then I suggest downloading something like Angry IP Scanner, which is a free to download, and there you can actually find your IP address in, and then obviously log into your controller to see what's going on. So just before we get started, if there's any links in the description box below, they will be Amazon affiliate links, which would basically mean I'll get a small cut in the profit if you purchase through that link. Okay, so all that being said, let's close this window and let's open the command prompt. If you've never opened the command prompt before, you just type CMD in the search box. It will then bring up command prompt. You can right click, run as administrator there, or you can click on run as administrator there. Obviously, it will bring a box up and say, do you want to run this in administration mode? It doesn't show up on the screen there because obviously it's in administration rights, so it doesn't show on screen recorders. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way, we now need to log into the Raspberry Pi. So if you don't know the IP address of your controller and your Raspberry Pi, then I suggest possibly downloading something like Angry IP Scanner and scan your network and find the IP address for your Unify controller. Obviously, if you have access to Unify controllers and want to update it, you must know the IP address. But anyway, there we go. If you've forgotten it, you can actually find it by using a scanner. So the first command we need to put into the command prompt is SSH space PI at, and then your IP address. Mine is 192.168.0.102. Yours will be different probably. And then put the password in that you should have created when you first logged into your Raspberry Pi, and you should have changed it from the default sort of admin ones. So put your password in. And then once you've got the password in, we then should be logged in to the Raspberry Pi. As you can see there, the one they highlighted in the green writing is telling us that we're actually ready to send commands to the Raspberry Pi, which has the Unify controller on it. So before we actually get to doing the update, I wanted to cover a few things where people go wrong, that I've seen people use the wrong commands here. So there's a couple of different commands that people use. So if I type in here, for example, sudo apt upgrade, and this is not the way to do it. So this is just indicating and showing you what happens if you type these in first. So you notice I've typed in sudo space apt space upgrade, and it's then there reading the package list, done, building dependencies tree, and basically the end sentence there is no upgraded, no newly installed, and none to remove, and none to be upgraded. So you're thinking, well, okay, the sudo apt upgrade hasn't worked, but that command should only be run after you've done the apt get update. So that's the two different things that you can sort of get wrong way round if you are trying this, and I will cover the right way around to do it in a minute. I just wanted to cover this section really to make sure that you are aware if you type this in, because I've seen videos done and people put these on where they've done the sudo apt upgrade, and they've done a sudo apt upgrade -y, which I've just shown you there, and it comes up with the exact same principles and same things that we're not expecting to see. We want to see that there's an update ready to go. And even if I put the apt list upgradable command in like so, listing done, and it shows nothing at all in the list. So they're the places where you can go wrong if you put them in first. We do need to run them, but we have to do them after we've done the actual update command itself. So with that in mind, let's just double check the version numbers so we can see it working. So this is me in my Unify, logged into my Raspberry Pi, my Unify controller. And you can see the current version I'm running is 6.0-41. And then if I just drag my other window in and show you which is available from the Unify website, make sure I'm in the right place. Unify controller is 6.0.43 is available. So that's what I want to update. I want to go from 4.1 to 4.3. So let's minimize them windows, get back to the command prompt. I'll just make this bigger, and I'll also type clear to give us a nice fresh command prompt to work from. And then we're going to type in the command to get the first part of this process, which is the update command. So we're going to type in sudo space apt space update, and then we're going to hit return. and then this will list available. And all this does is updates the list of available packages and their versions, but it doesn't do or install any upgrade or any of them packages yet. So obviously let it run through the process until you start until you can see the Pi at Raspberry Pi, the green command prompt like so. And there is a full list of the updates that are available. And you'll notice if I just put a red box around it, we should have the Unify, if you can just see it. So it's, oh, there's a couple there. So I think it's on 8, 7 and 11. They're Unify packages. So we know that there is stuff that we can update and that is ready to be updated. So with that in mind, we can now hit up our next command, which is apt space list space dash dash upgradable. And all the reason I'm doing this is to show you from that list which ones are upgradable, and it gives you the full breakdown list, and it should also give us the version numbers, so you can check in here. Obviously I'm updating everything. I'm not just updating Unify, I'm updating everything that is on the Raspberry Pi. I just think that's the best way to do it, because obviously some of them could be security issues, so it's best to update everything. So let me just zoom in and I'll show you there. So that Unify is part of that list, and it is the stable version, and there's two, the 6.0.43, and it's been upgraded from 6.0.41. So that's great. So I know that part of this upgrade package that I'm going to run will update Unify as part of that as well. So now we're going to use the command that I started with and saying don't put this one in first. So this is the command now to upgrade. So we need to do sudo, and then it's space apt space upgrade space -y, and then just pause it on this bit a second, because there you can see part of the following packages will be upgraded, and Unify is in that list right at the end. So that's great. And then let the machine run. Now, depending on how many updates are due for your Raspberry Pi and what software you've got on there will depend on how long this takes to do. So obviously I'm going to speed this up because there's quite a few of mine that's needing updating on this particular Raspberry Pi. So I'm just going to let it run through the process and, like I said, speed the video up while it's doing the install. Obviously as well, if yours is an older Raspberry Pi, it might take it longer as well, because it's got to do the processing. And you can do Unify on itself in this same fashion, but it's a different command. Obviously the commands I'm giving you will update all the software that's running on your Raspberry Pi that's also running your Unify controller, which is what this video is all about. You'll also get the prompt, if you haven't done, to do a backup while this process is going on. You've got the yes and no. So obviously if you haven't done a backup, now's a good time to action that and do the backup. You can obviously pick no up here. I've got a backup, so I'm just going to leave it on yes and then just push return like so, and then let the process carry on doing this upgrade or update for the installed packages on the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so here we go again. And like I said, I'm going to speed this up again. And that was just purely just wanted to mention about the backup side. Before any of this started, I would suggest doing a backup anyway. That would be the right way to do it. So just by keeping an eye on the actual command prompt here when it's doing this, you're just basically looking for the Pi at Raspberry Pi green lettering on the left hand side, and that's your indication that the actual process has finished. And as soon as this is finished, I will zoom in and show you what I mean. And then what we need to do then is, well, something that I always do is reboot the actual Raspberry Pi just to make sure it's all installed and working correctly. So there you can see the Pi at Raspberry Pi. So to reboot the Raspberry Pi, you just type in sudo space reboot, or you can do a shutdown command, which is, if I can remember rightly, sudo shutdown, if I can spell as well, sudo shutdown, and then it's a -r, I think it is, -r. So that will shut the actual Raspberry Pi down, or sudo reboot is the best way to do it, and that reboots it. You know it's going to restart, or should restart. And you can see that connection to my 192.168.0.102 was closed, and that's because we have just rebooted it. So now it's just a case of waiting for it to come back up online, and the way to check it's come back online, you can physically check it and see if it's switched on, but if you haven't got access to it and you're doing it remotely, then you just type in to your command prompt ssh space pi at 192.168.0.102, or in your IP address, mine is that. Put the password in again, and then we are now logged into the Raspberry Pi, so we know that we are up and running. So in theory the Unify controller should have started as well. So we'll open up Google Chrome, log into the Unify controller. I'll go into my settings and then open this window up a bit so we can see it. Let's go into No, I don't want a dashboard. Down into settings. Sorry, that was my mistake. Down into settings and then go down to maintenance. Make it a bit bigger so we can see it. Into maintenance, and then we should be able to see that it's now been upgraded. So now we're on current version is 6.0.43, and that matches the 6.0.43 showing on the Ubiquiti website, Unifi website, for us to download. So we have now upgraded our Unifi controller. So that's how to upgrade the Unifi controller on your Raspberry Pi. Sorry it was a bit long-winded, but I wanted to cover a few different things because there's a few mistakes that people make when they are trying to do this and trying to do the update. So it's worth just covering them early bits where you're trying to type in, you know, the upgrade action or update, depending on which way you are in the process. So it's just good to know that obviously when you do the update, that's the bit that comes before the upgrade. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please do hit the subscribe button. Also, if you like the video, give us the thumbs up and hit the bell icon to be alerted to any new videos I make. And also, please do hit me up with any comments below. They are always appreciated. And if you have hit the subscribe button, I'll hopefully see you in the next video.